So this past weekend, we had a pretty interesting, sort of look and sort of top rank on ESPN card where we had Shakur Stevenson and Jeremiah Nakadila for the interim WBO super featherweight title. And I, like many people, thought that Stevenson was going to stop him. It kind of became abundantly clear about 2 or 3 rounds in that was probably not going to be the case. What we saw was, to put it in wrestling terms, a 36-minute squash match in which the guy who lost the fight, Nakadila, provided no threat whatsoever, didn't land anything meaningful. According to CompuBox, he landed 9% of his punches, landed less than 30 total punches in the entire fight. And Stevenson, he scored a knockdown, but aside of that, it was just a one-sided boxing clinic. 120, 107 scorecards across the board. It was the easiest 120, 107 scorecard I've ever done in my life. And from an in-ring perspective, when we're looking at Stevenson and his talents, they were on full display. We can totally understand why we believe Stevenson is going to be a great, great young boxer for years and years to come. But when you add in the context of ESPN and Top Rank just going balls to the wall with their promotion and going through the really tired comparisons between him and Floyd Mayweather, when you make that comparison, especially to a young Floyd Mayweather, expectations are put forth in how you perform on the big stage in a main event on national television, a fight that was viewed by almost 1 million people on, for the duration of the bout. And you go out there and not only do you not knock the guy out, but you also just give us, quite frankly, it was a boring, really, really boring fight. You're going to see people now sour on the heavy promotion and the hype around Shakur Stevenson. And again, don't get me wrong. I believe Shakur Stevenson is going to be a guy that's going to be on pound for pound lists for years and years because he is that great of a boxer. But you can't deny the fact that fight on Saturday, Shakur Stevenson really missed a chance to really showcase himself and elevate himself, because we all know he's a great boxer, but he hasn't shown us he's an exciting boxer. And as much as we all love the sport of boxing, at the end of the day, what we see on television is just as much of an entertainment program as it is a sporting program. So I don't know about you, Robert, but I thought Shakur did not do himself any favors on Saturday. We all know he's a fantastic boxer, but boy, is this going to sour a lot of people as far as perception of him as being this next great star.
He doesn't have to please the critics. He doesn't have to please fans that want to see bloodlust. It's the sweet science. It's hit, not get hit. There's no other active fighter today that is defensively as awesome as Shakur Stevenson. If he would have fought the way Devin Haney would have fought, and he would have got caught, and let's say he would have got caught and knocked, that's the only way he could have lost that fight is if he stepped it up and tried to knock out Nakadila. He fought a safe fight. I've seen it plenty of times from Sweet Pea Whitaker and Floyd. Floyd, and Aram used to criticize his own Floyd for this. I don't blame Floyd. Floyd against Baldomir fought the same type of fight, fought a safe fight, shut him out, and people were ripping and roaring, oh, he didn't try. It's about winning the fight. Andre Ward, who was announcing the fight, has had several occasions and fights in which he fought the same way. Same way. I've heard, and Guillermo Rigondeaux, Bob Arum cut him after Rigondeaux beat Nonito Donaire because he claimed he was too boring to promote. Now, I am a proponent of hit and not get hit. I saw Stevenson Saturday night have skills that nobody else in the world has right now when it comes to defense. He's standing in front of you, Carlos, and you can't hit him. He's going to clean out that junior lightweight division if given the opportunity. If given the opportunity. It's time for him to stop fighting the bums of the world and step up. I believe Stevenson is a lot like a lot of great athletes where their best come out when they fight the best. He should be fighting an Oscar Valdez, a Jamel Herring, Vasily Lomachenko, so his real skills will come out. Nakadila, that was a 12-round sparring session. If he would have knocked him out in 3-4 rounds, it wouldn't have impressed me. Nothing that night would impress me. He was going to win regardless. I want to see him fight somebody else. It's time for Bob Arum to take the training wheels off and stop throwing him in with these guys that have no shot. Put him in with Miguel Belcher. Put him in with somebody. And I tell you, he will shine against Oscar Valdez or Miguel Belcher or Jamel Herring or Vasily Lomachenko because they will force him to fight. And when you force a great fighter like a Floyd Mayweather or Sweet Pea Whitaker to fight, they will shine. Floyd had many, many fights where people were being put to sleep. Then you brought in Diego Corrales, and he totally embarrassed him. All right, this is a Toro Gotti, the same thing. Totally embarrassed him. You got to put Stevenson in with that type of fighter, and he will shine. It's time for him to stop fighting the Joet Gonzalez's and Jeremy Nakadilas. Those guys aren't a pimple on his ass. It's time for him to fight nothing but A fighters because he's an A talent.
I agree in a lot about what you said, and I will say this, not necessarily in defense, but more taking an optimistic look at his future, is that, let's be honest, we live in an age where people are very fickle, and they will hop off the bandwagon as quickly as they are able to sort of get back on the
Hey, the same guys that were criticizing Shakur Stevenson are praising Edgar Berlanga, and Berlanga will be exposed, ladies and gentlemen. The man is not going anywhere. The minute he fights somebody like a David Benavidez, even a Callum Smith or a Caleb Plant, he will be exposed. Belanga's not that good, all right?
Yeah.
All right?
And to an extent, and the way you look at it is that you look at Shakur as a boxer, as like, just take a look at him as a boxer. He is one of the best young fighters in the sport today, unquestionably. When you look at what the excitement level surrounding his fights and how good and how exciting they can be, that can be a bit of a different story. But again,
he hasn't had an exciting fight yet because nobody that Arum at Top Rank has put him in is on his level. He needs to fight somebody on his level. Let's stop with the Joet Gonzalez's and the Nakadilas of the world. If he was to fight Nakatini, that would be he would shine because Nakatini would force him to, and he would beat the shit out of Nakatini. You want to put him in against a guy like that, yeah. But these guys that are safety boxers first, trying to land one shot like a Gonzalez or Nakatila, he's going to eat them alive all day, and you're going to fall asleep. Timothy Bradley should be ashamed of himself. He didn't shut up the entire fight talking about he almost fell asleep. You didn't shut up. He was annoying the hell out of me. When we go, I hate when Timothy Bradley was a very good fighter. He was not an all-time great. He was an overachiever. The win against Pacquiao was one of the worst robberies in the history of boxing. Bradley was a very good fighter. I don't consider him a Hall of Fame fighter because minus the Pacquiao win, he never fought the Floyd Mayweathers of the world because he would have gotten embarrassed. Almost got knocked out by a Ruslan Provinikov. Fuck Timothy Bradley with his bull crap. And I guess the relationship between Ward and Stevenson is over. You could tell Ward was trying to go 50-50 on it because Ward has been in that situation. He would know better. He's been in that situation where he stunk the joint out, safety first, and then he was probably trying to not diss Timothy Bradley, but Andre Ward probably taught Stevenson to just get the win and get the hell out of there.
Yeah, I mean, and And listen, and I think once he fights a guy like Jamel Herring and Oscar Valdez,
Right.
I think that's where we're going to get a lot of why.
That's when he will shine. That's when he will shine.
But the issue here, but part of the issue here is that the promotion surrounding him is talking about how great he is, but he hasn't fought anyone that warrants the Floyd Mayweather.
And that gets back to Bob Arum and his history, and I've said it a million times, I'll say it again. Bob Arum has not successfully promoted an African-American fighter since Marvelous Marvin Hagler. If you go down the list, he had Roy Jones and James Toney at the same time. He did a pay-per-view with the two of them in November '94, did less than 150,000 buys. He didn't properly promote this pay-per-view, despite the fact you had the two best fighters in the world at that time, as voted by Ring and KO magazine, two of the greatest fighters of the last 30 years, and he didn't properly push that. And then both men wound up leaving Arum after that fight and went on to make a ton of money. He totally dropped the ball on Floyd Mayweather's career, because after Floyd left Arum, he became a multi-damn-near billionaire, making some of the biggest fights in boxing history. You've seen Terrence Crawford. No one's even talking about Terrence Crawford. His career is at a standstill, and now we have the situation with Shakur Stevenson. Arum has a lot of fighters at 130 and 135 he could put in the ring with Shakur. Let's stop the nonsense. He's got Teofimo Lopez, Vasily Lomachenko, Jamel Herring, and Oscar Valdez, and Miguel Burchell. He's got 5 fighters that he could put in the ring with Shakur Stevenson. Let's get this to happen. Let's stop throwing him in with the stiff of the month.
So right now, the plan, or at least not the plan, or the release, it seems like it's Stevenson versus Jamel Herring next.
Right.
I mean, at least the WBO has said, hey, Jamel Herring, you're fighting Stevenson next.
Yeah, because Stevenson was saying he'll fight Herring, and if he beats Herring, he wants Valdez next. So let's hope.
Well, he said he wants Valdez, but he says if he has to beat Herring to get to Valdez, he'll do it. Which kind of seems to me, it gives me the impression that Valdez isn't fighting either Stevenson or Herring next. So right now, the next best thing that you can do is put him up against Jamel Herring, because Herring is a very credible world champion coming off of maybe the best performance of his career against Carl Frampton.
He will bring the best out of Stevenson, because Herring is not going to be like Nakadila, just standing there and trying to land one punch. He's going to try to outbox Stevenson. He'll probably try to go inside, go to the body. Herring is a very cagey veteran. He will bring the best out of Stevenson. Who do you think Valdez will fight next? A rematch with Burchell, maybe?
From what I'm hearing, it's probably not going to be against Miguel Burchell. I don't know what's up with Miguel Burchell, but I don't get the impression it's going to be a rematch.
Okay.
And I mean, it's probably going to be some type of voluntary defense against somebody in the WBC top 15, or someone that
who's his number one contender? Burchell, right? I'm sure Suleiman kept him at number 1.
I can check that right now.
You know how Suleiman favors his countrymen, even after they got their ass beat.
So the number 1 guy in the WBC, it is Miguel Burchell.
I figured that.
Yeah, so yeah, there's a.
Well, you know what? He deservedly deserves the number 1.
Yes, he does.
He does, because he was champion for a long time, and he deserves that number 1 contender. And yeah, I wouldn't mind a rematch. Come on.
Yeah, I look. It'd still be a really good fight. I would favor
Valdez will win,
but
because I don't think Burchell is ever going to be the same after that beating. But matter of fact, it'll be a worse. Matter of fact, I don't even think it'll be a great fight. I think Burchell took such a beating, it'll be similar to when Pacquiao fought Morales the 3rd time. It just be a 2 or 3 round destruction.
Yeah, and I mean, it'll be
interesting, and he's the number 1 contender, and he deserves that rematch. He had a tremendous run as champion.
So just to close out the Soul Stevenson talk, I mean, look, he's a great boxer, and the promotion surrounding him, let's be honest, it's kind of starting to backfire a little bit when he's not performing at like He's doing phenomenal in the ring, but just not in an exciting way we all hope. But I think we're going to get to a point very soon where we're going to get Shakur Stevenson in against a real top world class fighter like a Jamel Herring.
And you can't.
So
and you're right. And you're right about the comparisons with Whitaker and Mayweather not being justified, because I'll give Arum this credit. Mayweather was fighting Gennaro Hernandez at the age of 21, fought Diego Corrales at the age of 23. So he was able to shine young because Arum was able to put him in with those guys. Arum hasn't given Stevenson the same type of opposition, despite and you know what? Gennaro Hernandez and Diego Corrales were not top-ranked fighters, and Arum was able to make those fights. Arum has all these top-ranked fighters that he could feed Shakur. He needs to be feeding Shakur these guys.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that.
You saw when Golden Boy and PBC had that agreement for a long time, Oscar kept feeding Floyd, one Mexican after another, thinking this guy's going to kick his ass. He was just feeding him. It was a great feud, the Floyd-Oscar feud. He just kept feeding him and feeding him and feeding him until that partnership dissolved. That's what Arum needs to do with Stevenson. He can't do it with Crawford because he's gotten the welterweights, but he could do it with Stevenson because he's got a lock on the 130 and 135-pound divisions.
Yes, so I agree. I mean, you got to do something with Shakur very, very soon. Otherwise, you're really a lot of people are really gonna sour on the hype surrounding Shakur Stevenson.
And he'll be 24 in 10 days. So you got this time to start now. I mean, and you look how big he is now. He's gonna eventually be a 154-pounder when it's all said and done. He's as big as Terrence Crawford. I saw them sparring, and I'm like, damn. He's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. So come on, let's start the ball rolling.